Welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive. Whether you are stepping into a major strategic planning session or trying to stay ahead of the rapid shifts in enterprise tech, or maybe you're just curious about how the mechanics of global business are being rewired behind closed doors, you are in the right place.
You really are, yeah.
Today, we are opening up a rather eye-opening set of insights from November 2025. We're specifically looking at how finance teams are deploying artificial intelligence right now.
And our mission for this deep dive is to bypass the theoretical hype entirely. We aren't projecting what artificial intelligence might be capable of a decade from now.
Right, no crystal balls today.
Exactly. We are examining the operational blueprints of real-world finance departments. We want to understand how they are using these tools today to extract measurable value, accelerate their insights, and, build significantly stronger financial controls.
To set the scene for you, the data presents a baseline that is frankly staggering. Based on a proprietary survey of over 100 chief financial officers across different global regions and industries, 44% report using generative AI for over 5 different use cases in 2025.
Wow, over 5.
Yeah, and that number takes on a completely different weight when you consider the baseline. In the previous year's survey, that number was just 7%.
That is a massive leap.
It is a sudden, massive deployment of capital and attention, and it's reinforced by the fact that 65% of these organizations are increasing their generative AI investments this year.
But that flood of investment brings us to a critical contradiction, and it's essential context for why this matters to you.
Right.
Despite the capital pouring in, nearly 2/3 of organizations have not successfully scaled AI across their enterprise. Early initiatives often result in poor outcomes.
So they're just getting stuck.
They get completely stuck. We see isolated pilots breaking down under real-world conditions or failing to adapt when new, unstructured data emerges, or they just remain completely detached from core day-to-day business processes.
Like a science experiment sitting in a vacuum.
That's exactly it. And the key to moving past that high failure rate is abandoning those isolated science experiments. The organizations finding success are applying AI across foundational, everyday finance domains.
Okay, let's unpack this. The first foundational domain identified is strategic planning and control. We are talking about a fundamental shift here.
A huge one, yeah.
Finance professionals are moving away from merely crunching historical numbers in spreadsheets. They're actively driving company strategy using AI-powered decision support tools. Predictive analytics combined with generative AI seems to be kind of democratizing data for decision makers across the board.
It fundamentally alters the accessibility of enterprise information. For decades, answering a complex strategic question required a database architect or an entire team of analysts querying different siloed systems.
Right, the classic, let me pull a report on that delay.
Precisely. Now, the technology is creating a cohesive, queryable view out of multiple layers of highly fragmented data.
Let's look at the mechanics of that in practice. Take the global consumer goods company that implemented a generative AI assistant specifically to handle budget variances.
A very common pain point.
Absolutely. Rather than a team of humans manually digging through regional spreadsheets to figure out why a specific division overspent its quarterly allowance, the AI assistant parses the data and delivers those insights directly to business leaders.
It just cuts out the middleman entirely.
It does. That single implementation replaced so much manual number crunching that it saved their finance professionals an estimated 30% of their time.
And we need to look closer at what a 30% time saving actually represents at scale. It isn't just an efficiency play, it is a reallocation of intellectual capital.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Consider the large North American financial institution drafting internal risk model reports. Historically, that is an incredibly time-intensive process.
I can imagine.
A team has to pull highly specific internal risk data and manually synthesize it with broad, constantly changing public regulatory sources.
Which is just a massive headache.
It really is. By using generative AI to combine those internal and external data sets and generate the first drafts of those updates, they drastically shrink the production cycle of a mandatory compliance task.
But how does that actually change the dynamic in the room? If I'm an executive sitting in a high-stakes planning session, how does this integration of CRM systems, financial records, and operational data alter the conversation?
What's fascinating here is the shift from latency to real-time strategic agility.
Okay, what do you mean by latency in this context?
Well, because those distinct data sets are integrated into a single AI architecture, finance teams can use natural language during those very meetings. In a traditional setting, an executive asks a complex question about a declining return on investment, and the finance lead says, "Let me have the team run a report. We will get back to you by Friday."
Right, the Friday report.
Exactly. Now, they query the AI in real time. The AI can surface a management alert regarding the declining ROI and immediately provide root cause analysis
It just tells them the answer right there.
right there in the meeting. It will isolate the variables, stating that the problem stems from cost category A in region Y.
So it identifies the bleeding wound immediately, rather than just reporting that the patient is losing blood.
Yes. And it goes a step further by suggesting data-driven actions based on historical patterns and current forecasts.
Like what?
The output might be a recommendation to shift 10% of the sales budget to digital marketing to stimulate higher growth in that specific region.
Wow.
The core takeaway for you here is that by eliminating that 20 to 30% of a sheer data crunching time, finance teams are transforming. They are shedding the identity of back office calculators and becoming proactive, strategic business partners.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's move to the second foundational domain, cash and working capital management.
This is a big one.
It is. This is where we move beyond generating insights and reports and get into AI-powered agentic workflows. To be clear for you listening, an agentic workflow means the AI has a level of agency to monitor, act, and execute tasks on its own within set parameters.
It takes action.
Right. But I have to ask, handing over financial agency to an AI, how are CFOs sleeping at night knowing a machine is policing their capital?
They sleep better because the machine is catching what human oversight consistently misses.
Really?
Yeah, we are looking at the evolution from passive, retrospective analysis to active, real-time surveillance of a company's capital. A perfect illustration is the global biotech company that deployed an agentic AI system for invoice-to-contract compliance.
Oh, right. They set up an AI to continuously ingest both their highly complex vendor contracts and their daily incoming invoices.
Exactly.
It checks every single transaction to ensure contract terms are accurately applied, catching missed early payment discounts, verifying tiered pricing structures, and ensuring volume rebates are honored.
All the stuff that slips through the cracks.
But why isn't AI so much better at this than a team of experienced accounts payable professionals?
Because human monitoring struggles with triggers that occur cumulatively over time, across multiple disparate systems.
Give me an example of that.
Imagine a contract stating that once your company purchases 10,000 units of a specific raw material, the unit price drops by 5%.
Okay, simple enough.
A human processing invoice number 400 on a Tuesday afternoon is highly unlikely to realize that this specific invoice just pushed the cumulative corporate total past that 10,000 unit threshold for the year.
Especially if those purchases are being made by 5 different departments globally.
Exactly. The human only sees the piece of paper in front of them.
They lack the infinite contextual recall.
Precisely. The agentic AI system, however, has perfect cumulative memory. It constantly monitors the aggregate data.
So it never forgets where the threshold is.
Never. It identifies issues that only emerge across multiple invoices over a long time horizon, and it instantly flags the eligibility for the lower price tier before the invoice is paid.
The financial impact of that perfect memory is staggering. By deploying this system, the biotech company identified value leakage equal to about 4% of their total spend.
4% is massive at that scale.
It really is. To put that math into perspective for you, if a company has a nominal spend of $1 billion, catching that 4% leakage translates to $40 million in recurring margin improvement.
$40 million.
$40 million recovered just by having an AI system flawlessly enforce the fine print they'd already negotiated.
It demonstrates how AI can drive massive bottom-line value without requiring a company to engineer a new product or capture new market share. It is purely an exercise in retaining capital.
Which falls directly into the third area, cost optimization.
Yeah.
This focuses heavily on granular spending and indirect spend bases.
Yes.
But categorizing indirect spend has always been notoriously difficult. Why has this specific area been such a black hole for finance teams?
Because indirect spend is operational chaos.
Chaos is a good word for it.
It is the money spent on keeping the business running, not on direct manufacturing materials. You are dealing with thousands of different suppliers, random travel expenses, software subscriptions, facility maintenance, and office supplies.
Basically everything that isn't the core product.
Right. And the invoice descriptions are vague. The vendors use different naming conventions. There are misspellings, and the data is completely unstructured. Traditional software systems require clean, structured data to work.
So how did the large European financial institutions solve this? They took invoice-level data from thousands of suppliers and managed to organize it into an incredibly detailed cost taxonomy.
A very detailed one.
We are talking about 4 levels of increasing detail with roughly 400 distinct subcategories. How does the technology actually accomplish that level of sorting?
This is where large language models provide a massive breakthrough. An LLM doesn't just read the text, it understands context. It can look at a vaguely worded invoice from a local vendor, cross-reference the context of the transaction, and accurately categorize it into one of those 400 subcategories.
Even with the misspellings and weird formatting.
Yes. Once you have transformed that chaotic, unstructured data into a highly structured data set, you can apply automated anomaly detection.
In this specific case, they still kept a human in the loop to review the AI's output.
Right. Yes, always important to have that human oversight at first.
But the machine did the heavy lifting of pattern detection. By mapping everything so clearly, they found hidden inefficiencies in areas that usually fly under the radar, like energy usage, corporate travel, and facility management.
The crucial insight here is that individually, these were very modest savings. Finding a slight inefficiency in regional travel expenses won't make headlines.
Right. It's just a drop in the bucket.
But cumulatively, across a multi-billion euro spend base, identifying and correcting those granular anomalies reduced their costs by approximately 10%.
10% on a multi-billion euro spend base is transformative.
It really is.
And this level of mapping doesn't just cut costs. Take the large European packaging company that used generative AI to categorize their supplier base of over 10,000 vendors.
That's a massive network.
Historically, a company that size only has the human bandwidth to closely monitor their top-tier vendors. The long tail of smaller, indirect suppliers is essentially a blind spot.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, deploying AI to categorize those 10,000 vendors did more than optimize procurement overlaps.
What else did it do?
The categorization revealed massive blind spots in their supplier diversity.
Oh, interesting.
Because the AI mapped every single vendor relationship with perfect clarity, leadership could suddenly see exactly where they were falling short of their diversity metrics.
The data was just laid bare.
Exactly. It allowed them to actively expand their sourcing into underserved areas. It is a powerful example of how these analytical tools can advance corporate social responsibility mandates just as effectively as financial targets.
So what does this all mean? We have covered these massive wins. $40 million in retained capital, a 10% reduction in operating costs, 30% time savings.
Significant numbers across the board.
Let's bring it back to that sobering statistic from the beginning. 2/3 of organizations are failing to scale this technology.
Right.
If you are listening to this and want to actually apply this knowledge in your own organization, how do you avoid getting trapped in pilot purgatory?
It requires a disciplined approach to deployment. There are 5 common missteps that consistently stall progress, and understanding the mechanics of these failures is how you differentiate a genuine transformation from a vanity project.
Let's walk through them. What is the first major trap?
Waiting for perfect data. Teams frequently delay rewiring their processes because they operate under the assumption that every dataset across the enterprise needs to be perfectly accurate, flawlessly connected, and highly standardized before introducing AI.
But isn't garbage in, garbage out the golden rule of data science? If a company's data is messy, doesn't deploying an AI just mean you are going to make bad strategic decisions much faster?
That is a very common fear, but the reality of modern business is that you will never have perfect data. The landscape shifts too quickly.
That makes sense.
The successful approach is to identify specific use cases that can create immediate value with the data you currently have. You deploy the AI to solve a contained problem, prove the value, and use that operational momentum and the budget it frees up to continually strengthen your broader data foundation as you scale.
Do not let perfect be the enemy of the good.
Precisely.
That brings us to the second barrier on the list, trying to transform all at once.
Holding back deployment until the entire finance function is deemed AI-ready is a guaranteed way to paralyze an organization. Enterprise-wide transformations take years.
So what's the alternative?
The proven path is to move domain by domain. You build momentum by proving the value in one specific area, like the invoice compliance and agentic workflows we discussed. And then you carefully scale the specific capabilities that are delivering sustainable, measurable results.
Which naturally leads into the third misstep, jumping in without a clear roadmap. It sounds obvious, but why does this happen so frequently?
Because of the hype cycle. Leadership teams often launch an AI pilot simply to see what the technology can do without any strategic direction tied to the core business.
Just playing with a shiny new toy.
Exactly. If it isn't solving a burning problem, it rarely scales beyond a novelty. Finance leaders must anchor their AI roadmap directly to their top organizational priorities.
You need a real business case.
You have to make deliberate, rigorous choices about which use case to pursue first, which comes second, and crucially, you must ensure you have the specialized technical talent in-house to support and maintain those specific models.
You can't just buy a license for enterprise software and assume the existing IT desk can manage it.
You really can't.
That flows into the fourth barrier, which is neglecting change management.
This barrier is responsible for more failed tech deployments than any software bug. The biggest obstacle to scaling AI is human adoption.
Because people are afraid of losing their jobs?
Or just resistant to changing how they work. Imagine telling a team of veteran financial analysts that an AI is going to take over 30% of their traditional workflow.
That's a tough conversation.
If you do not equip your teams with extensive training and actively manage the psychological friction of that transition, the organization will reject the technology. The humans operating the system have to implicitly trust and understand the machine's outputs.
And the final misstep, number 5, automating fragmented processes. This one seems counterintuitive. If a process is slow and broken, shouldn't that be the very first thing you throw AI at to fix it?
That is a dangerous trap. If your core workflow is overly complex, inefficient, or disjointed, applying AI will not fix it. It will only amplify and accelerate that complexity.
Just making a bad process run faster.
Exactly. Imagine a procurement process that requires 7 different manual approvals for a $50 software subscription.
I've worked at places like that.
Many of us have. If you put an AI on top of that, you haven't solved bureaucracy. You have just automated a terrible system. You have to do the hard work of simplifying and standardizing the underlying processes across your teams first.
Fix the plumbing before you upgrade the water pressure.
Exactly. Remove the unnecessary steps, clean the workflow, and then apply the technology to scale it.
So the prerequisite to artificial intelligence is actually basic operational hygiene.
Precisely. Synthesizing all of this, avoiding these pitfalls, requires clear strategic vision paired with highly practical execution. The difference between a pilot that fizzles out and an implementation that creates lasting compounded value is strict business alignment.
You have to solve real problems.
You must tie the AI to specific, pressing financial needs, you must streamline your core processes first, and you must deploy the technology explicitly to free up human capacity for higher-level, complex problem-solving.
Which leaves us with a provocative thought for you to mull over as we wrap up today's deep dive. We established that these AI tools are freeing up 20 to 30% of finance professionals' time. It is allowing them to shift from historical reporting to strategic partnership.
A total paradigm shift.
Traditionally, the finance department has been viewed as the most cautious, risk-averse arm of a company. The people who look at the receipts of what already happened and tell the innovators what they can't afford.
The Department of No.
Right, but consider what happens when this specific department suddenly possesses a massive surplus of bandwidth, combined with AI-driven predictive foresight. If the keepers of the capital can suddenly run highly complex, real-time future scenarios better than anyone else in the building, will the finance department eventually replace traditional executive roles as the primary architects of a company's innovation and growth strategy?
It is a profound shift to consider. When the team controlling the budget also holds the most accurate predictive models of the future market, the center of gravity in the boardroom is inevitably going to change.
It is a shift that could completely rewrite the corporate power dynamic, something to keep a very close eye on in your own industry, whether you are in the finance department or pitching to them. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the real-world operational mechanics of AI. Keep questioning the hype, look for the underlying business logic, and we encourage you to keep exploring how these massive shifts are going to impact your own strategic landscape. Take care.